Okay, review time. What I have up for you is the PSI guide. I'll show you the very first page again. Again, I have this stored on my website at iowarealestateacademy.com. It's under resources and PSI information. Again, just to review, PSI is the company that provides the testing on behalf of the Iowa Real Estate Commission. You will go to their website, which is here on the very front page if you haven't already, and go to psiexams.com. You can register to take the exam there. And again, you're taking Iowa salesperson for your exam. And it should have the schedule on there. If you've got any questions for the Real Estate Commission, like where the heck is my background check? Here is their contact information as well. And again, you will want to set up an account at this plb.iowa.gov website. That's where you'll start uploading your completion certificates for 60-hour plus the additional 3 12-hour courses, your 2 passing exams, 1 for state, 1 for national, and a copy of your errors and omissions insurance when your brokerage helps you set that up. In this packet is also just some good tips for getting ready for the exam, scheduling, what to expect when you get there. It's got the addresses of the locations for Cedar Rapids, Council Bluffs, and Des Moines, tucked in here somewhere. It also has, if you've got to, reschedule your exam, it's got some information in there as well. My key thing for you when you go to the test center, just as a reminder, make sure you take a printed copy of your 60-hour certificate. You only need this course to take the exam, 60-hour pre-license, even though I know some of you have done the courses in different order. You just need this certificate physically printed, not on your phone. My certificates will be stored for you at iowarealestateacademy.com under your student center. I'll do those today while Jordan and I are hanging out. But go with that certificate and 2 forms of ID. One of them must be government issued. Now, if you can take passport and driver's license, I think that's best because they're both government issued. Otherwise, most people do a credit card and driver's license. Make sure the names on them match. So if you've recently got married or had a name change or something like that, just make sure everything matches and you're not taking a paper driver's license, but an actual physical one. When you get to the test center, they recommend getting there 30 minutes early. And I do suggest that you do that because while the test center might be limited right now in the number of seats because of COVID, they do have a very strict check-in process and have you kind of sit in seats in a line as they check people in because of security purposes and so that I don't show up and take all of your exams for you fraudulently. So follow their check-in process. Again, sometimes they're nice, sometimes they're not. That's okay. Don't let that rattle you. And then go prepared to just follow their rules. And my other big key thing is watch what you wear to the test center. I know it's winter, so you might wear a coat. They do have a place for coats in the in a little storage site, a little coat rack. Just ladies, try not to wear anything too flowy with pockets. Gentlemen, pockets for you as well. No ball caps, no eye watches or whatever you call them. Nothing like that. Your cell phone needs to be shut off. Any other personal items you'll put in a locked backpack that they have you hang from the back of your chair. So don't take a lot in because you won't be able to use it. My experience at the test center, They will have a generic calculator there for you to borrow. You can take your own and have them look at it and verify that it's one you can use. But just as a reminder, you can't use your cell phone as your calculator. Wouldn't that be fun though if you could? You cannot use a calculator like that. You got to use just kind of a really dumb generic one because they don't want a percent button. They want you to know how to type in a percent of 5% is 0.05 on the calculator. They want you to know how to do that longhand math. So I've always borrowed one from them and they've had plenty. They will give you a scratch piece of paper. Mine's always been Robin's Egg Blue. It will have your name and maybe like the last 4 digits of your social security number on it. You'll get that and you will get a pencil, like a number 2 pencil. Don't freak out. This is not the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. It's much more serious than that. Just kidding. It is serious, but it's also not the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. So don't freak out. That scratch pad is really good for obviously doing math. It's also good for just taking notes and using the process of elimination. It's also really good. I know I've recommended that you all, as soon as you sit down somewhere on that piece of paper, write down 640 and 43,560. And the 640 is the number of acres in a square mile, which is a section. And then each acre has 43,560 square feet. So just so you don't get stage fright, if you need those numbers, write those down as soon as you get there. Another formula that I've suggested that you do, and I know a lot of different instructors call it something else. I call it the Wagner T because I learned it from our dear Don Wagner, that's been a long time instructor in our market. The Wagner T is a T, and on top of the T, you wrote income. And on one side, you wrote value, and on the other side, you wrote rate with an X in between. So that helped you know whether to divide or multiply some formulas that might come up. That one might be a good one for you to do. Maybe not as important to me as the 640 and the 43,560, but I'll let you do with that what you wish. And then you will have a mortgage factor chart. Mine was laminated and taped to the desk. So when you need that formula cheat sheet, well, that chart, it's there for you. Now, Jordan, I think you had a question. What was it?
Have you been there since COVID has happened? Do you think they're going to not have calculators because of that? Or do you think...
No, I think that they will still have calculators. I just, when I used to go to the test center, there were 6 stations, and I just don't know whether they have all 6 of those open or whether they've maybe gone down to, 4 for social distancing. So they just may not have as many slots available, but I do think they'll have calculators. I've not heard about that changing. I would just go prepared to be COVID friendly with a mask and be socially distanced. And another thing, I'm not sure if I've shared, they do have earplugs there at the test center. So if it is noisy in there, there's a business next door to our test center in Des Moines that I think they're I imagine they're playing Nerf basketball, but that's my imagination because they're loud and cheering about something all the time. But put those earplugs in, or if you've got somebody that's a sniffer, maybe has a ruddy nose, don't forget to pull those out. But I do think that they'll have calculators there for you. Because again, I have no need for a calculator. That's not on my cell phone at this point. So I think you'll be good. Next set of tips, this is on page 3 of this guide, is this summary table. You will have 80 minutes to take the national exam. You must get a 56 to pass. You've got 60 minutes for the state. You've got 40 points, 40 questions. You need a 28 to pass. So in my experience, you will do the state exam first. And when you go in and you start the computer, it will give you some easy questions like how many states are in America? What is the date that we celebrate our nation's birth? Some things that hopefully are very easy for you to answer. And it doesn't matter if you get those right or not. The point of that is just to really help you kind of navigate through the computer system so that you know how to answer and then go to the next question. And then another feature that you can do is you can flag something so that you go back and answer it. And if you want to use that flag system, do it. Just make sure you don't say you're done with the exam and because you're like, whoa, question 40, I must be done. And then not go back and answer those. Because I do think students do that and possibly then fail the exam by a couple of questions that they just simply didn't even answer. So if you're going to do that, what I do is I not only flag, but I write that question down on my scratch piece of paper so that I know to go back and address that and I don't forget and make sure that everything is answered. Another thing I usually do is I usually go all the way back to question 1 and then I just click through. I don't reread, but I just click through just to even verify that all of them are answered. And I didn't accidentally think I clicked something and move on and leave it blank. So that might be something to consider as well. When you do the state portion and you get started, again, you've got 60 minutes to finish the state, 40 questions, you need a 28 to pass. Now, when I was there the last time, and I'm not sure if I've shared this with you guys yet, I actually answered 45 questions. Now, your score is still based on 40. You still just need a 28. I asked questions about why there was extra. And the woman started to tell me and then realized, no, I'm not supposed to be talking about this. My glean from it is that they're auditing questions and trying to add probably some new ones to the mix and just kind of see how students react to that. That's what I gleaned from her half answer. So if you actually end up answering 45, don't be surprised. You still just need that 28 to pass. And again, I've been in the business. I got my license in the very beginning of 2002. I've never been on an appointment where someone has asked me what my score was on the exam. And no one has ever asked me how many times I took the test before I passed. So I don't care what your score is. I just want you to play to pass. You maybe don't need to learn everything, but learn what's on this packet for sure. Okay. So 40, 28, 60 minutes. Then when you're done with the national, it will say, are you done? Are you sure you're done? No, are you really done? I literally do think it will ask you 3 times to verify that you are done taking the exam. And then you'll move on to the national. You've got 80 points on that one. You need a 56 to pass. You've got 120 minutes to take that. I would plan to be at the test center for the entire 3 hours. Don't let a friend ask you to lunch and rush you through it. Really do take your time. And then that way, if there are some things you need to go back and review, you can. I do caution you about changing too many answers if you don't really know that the answer is wrong. Don't get into that guessing game. Typically, if you don't know the answer, how you answered it with your gut does better than if you go back and just randomly change a bunch. Again, just because you're doing the guessing game there at the end. With 120 minutes and 80 questions, you should have about a minute per question. And then for the math, you would have 5 to 7 minutes to go back and really spend some more time on those. I know some people that save all the math questions for the end. I just take the exam question by question. But if you've got a technique in there, go for it. You're an adult. Just don't forget to answer all the questions again. Now, on the national portion, again, it's 80 points that it's based off of, again, with a 56 to pass. And my experience is they're probably going to ask you 90 questions. Again, they're doing some sort of audit there, and I assumed that it would be a short-term thing that they did this, but in reality, I think it's longer term than that. So I would expect to answer 90. Okay. Then here is the outline for the national portion of the exam. This is what I'm going to call your playbook to passing. So if there's anything in the big book we've been using, the Modern Real Estate Practice Book, edition 20, if there's anything in that book that's not on this list, I would say focus on what's on this list. I know I've asked you a few tricky things on our practice exams that we maybe didn't really touch on a whole lot, just to kind of try to rock your feet and keep you still focused, though, on taking an exam. We did not cover everything in that book, but we did cover this outline. So if you're struggling with some things and there really is a section that you don't understand, land use controls, for example, you don't understand zoning and non-conforming or a variance or something like that, a conditional use permit, there's only 4 test questions on the exam around it. Maybe you move on and focus on something else. I'm going to leave that up to you because all of you are different in what your strengths are. But this is the outline of what you need to know. And I will point out, of course, the big sections that are going to make the most impact. Again, all of these red numbers are the page that corresponds in that Modern Real Estate book that Dearborn is editor for that we've been using. So that way, hopefully you got a quick reference. Now, of course, you can go to the vocabulary as well. They sometimes have a couple different places in the book where it's listed, but this should be just like a quick reference guide for you. Okay. Property ownership is going to be your first section. This is going to be 6 to 7 test questions. And actually, let me pull out. I found some old test guides of mine. And mine look crazy because I wrote a bunch of notes on them. But you'll get 2 pieces of paper when you're done. One with your crazy photo. I smiled, even though I don't really know that they wanted me to. One will be for the national, and then you'll get a second one for the state. And these are what you'll keep when you pass to upload to that PLB website. So you'll know right there at the exam center whether you passed or failed. And if you pass one and not the other, okay. You can go back and just take the one that you missed. You don't have to take both of them again. But of course, PSI will charge you the full test fee of, I believe, $95. Aren't they sweet? So you will get those right there. And if for some reason you did not pass, I like to go through this because, for example, property ownership, on mine, they asked a total of 7 test questions, and I got 6 right. So I did miss one. It goes through land use controls, 5 questions. Valuation and market analysis, 8 questions. Financing was 6. General principles of agency was 10. It says mandated disclosures, 8. When did I take this? I took this in 2018 in July. Contracts was 11. Transfer of title was 5. Practice of real estate was 12. Real estate calculations was 6. Specialty areas was 2. And then it goes and it says that was the total number of questions asked was 80. And then it went over and it told me the number that I got right. So if there really was a big section where we had some misses, we now maybe know where you need to study. So for calculations, if they ask 6 and you got 0 right, that might be a time that we do want to engage you in a little bit more math. So